Grand Prix season, which has been one of politics, tragedies, surprises, and brilliant car and driver achievements, ends with round 16 in the bizarre setting of Caesars Palace car park at Las Vegas. After 15 Grand Prix, 3 drivers are still in contention for the World Championship. Keke Rosberg, in his first season in a competitive car, the superb Tag Williams, leads the 2 McLaren teamsters, John Watson by 9 points and Niki Lauda by 12. If Keke can finish 5th or higher today, he's world champion whatever happens. But that won't be easy, for although he's 6th fastest on the starting grid, he's got the 2 turbo Renaults of Prost and Arnoux ahead of him on the staggered front row, with the brilliant Tyrrell charger Michele Alboreto 3rd fastest.
Yes, and a hard prospect that the drivers are faced with here. Very heavy on them physically around this track with constant radius turns, all very tight turns and no rest at all. Very hot indeed. The G-forces here are very high indeed, and it's really a physical battle.
In today's conditions, survival of the fittest will be the rule, and almost anyone could win.
They come now to the 14th and final turn in the grid.
We're getting ready now for the start of it. The adrenaline is pumping down here.
The drivers will increase their rev counters. Coming up, there's the red light. 4 seconds ticks away. The green light, and we are off and racing at the 2nd annual Caesars Palace Grand Prix. Prost leads his teammate Arnoux down into the first turn. A safe start so far. They come around the first turn. Everyone clear through that corner. Now Prost comes off the 2nd turn. Arnoux follows in behind him. Prost still out in front. Arnoux is in 2nd place. Alboreto drops into 3rd, but Tracy is in 4th, and Eddie Cheever of the United States begins a battle with Mario Andretti for 5th place. Prost will lead lap number 1 at the 1982 Caesars Palace Grand Prix. His teammate Arnoux is right behind him. Alboreto is in 3rd, but Tracy is in 4th. The battle is at the lead of the field between the 2 Renaults, though in truth, if they are playing the game smart, they really shouldn't fight at this point.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's going to be a battle, and sure enough, Arnoux has taken the lead. On lap 2, René Arnoux has moved up ahead of Alain Prost.
The turbos already beginning to outdistance much of the field. Really, only Alboreto in hot pursuit.
I'm amazed how Alboreto is running, Paul. He really is very consistent. He's biding his time.
Jody, the first 2 cars are turbocharged machines. Alboreto's car is a normally aspirated machine. Now, they say that in the heat here, it's expected to go into the 90s before the afternoon is over, that the heat on this desert will sap the strength of those turbos.
Yeah, I think it's not only that. The biggest problem with the turbo is it runs with very high temperatures on exhaust, so that makes it more critical. So it will be more prone to failure.
And one car slowing. Patrese throws to the side, pulls off of the race course, and Patrese, with a problem on the pit straight, is out of the race.
It's Arnoux! Arnoux! There is Arnoux into the pit with a very, very flat-sounding Renault. And it looks as though his race is run, his last race for Renault, because he's going to be driving for Ferrari next year. And that means to say that in the lead now is Alain Prost. In 2nd position is Michele Alboreto. In 3rd position, therefore, it is John Watson. And there goes Mario Andretti, and through goes Keke Rosberg, and De Angelis has just gone out of the race. He's gone off on turn 14, there he is. And on lap 41, Alain Prost is leading, but being caught very rapidly by Michele Alboreto.
There's Alboreto, the 2nd place car. It's a Tyrrell, Ken Tyrrell, who went to the World Championship with Jackie Stewart. Built this car, hired this driver. He's very fond of Alboreto, says he's quite a driver.
He certainly is, I think, for a team. This is one of the smaller teams, Paul. Doesn't have the big budget. It's not a factory operation, and Alboreto really has gotten this car going. He qualified well, and I think you're going to see a lot of it.
You know, an interesting thing that Ken Tyrrell told me about Alboreto. Alboreto is an Italian, but Tyrrell says he really doesn't have an Italian temper. He's very reserved, very seldom gets angry, very seldom gets excited.
There goes Prost, and the gap between Prost and Alboreto, who has just passed, is 3.3 seconds.
Alboreto has driven very well all year. He's ready to win a Grand Prix. He's driven excellently.
And there you see it. That is Alain Prost, and now he has Michele Alboreto right with him. We're going to see a change of leadership on lap 52. Prost won't give way. Why should he? But Michele Alboreto's got a nimbler car and he takes the lead. Into the lead of the Caesars Palace Grand Prix. On lap 52 goes Michele Alboreto.
Paul Alboreto was wasting no time opening up the advantage. Once he made that pass in turn 5, he quickly jumped it out. It's 8 to 10 lengths now as we watch Michael Alboreto, the 25-year-old Italian, in the lead for the first time at Caesars.
Well, Ken Tyrrell certainly has a high opinion of this young Italian. He says he is one of the great drivers coming on, and apparently he's beginning to show some of that style.
Oh, sure. The whole of this year he's been very mature driving, and yeah, surely this is his best race so far.
And look how far away Alboreto has managed to expand his lead since he got around Prost.
Now that he's pushed for the lead, he's got into the lead, he's going to start settling down, so maybe then the fatigue starts to set in. He's got to keep his concentration up.
So John Watson now in second place. He is on a campaign to pick up the lead. If he can pick up the win and force Keke Rosberg back out of the points, then John Watson will win his first championship. Well, there isn't any doubt about it. We have had a beautiful time in Las Vegas, having a good time as well. Michael Alboreto on his way at the moment to his first Grand Prix victory.
He's pulling away. He's drove a magnificent race.
The Italian from Milan, a mechanical engineer, a Formula 3 champion in Europe, is leading this race. He has participated in 25 Grand Prix.
He is on his last lap in an absolutely magnificent race, a race which marks the comeback of the Tyrrell team, which last won a Grand Prix in 1978 at Monaco with the Frenchman Patrick Depailler at the wheel.
He has no competition for the lead. He has to make sure that the car doesn't fail. He has a 25-second lead over second place John Watson.
Michele Alboreto is almost home.
Through the 13th turn, he accelerates. Slower traffic in front of him. He has to tiptoe through the 14th turn. He comes through 14 very, very carefully. The checkered flag is ready.
Michele Alboreto has won the Caesars Palace Grand Prix of 1982, and there, taking the last corner on the last lap, is the world champion of 1982, Keke Rosberg. He knows it. Keke Rosberg finishes 5th in the Caesars Palace Grand Prix, but it was won brilliantly by Michele Alboreto in his Tyrrell, with John Watson 2nd, Eddie Cheever 3rd.
Congratulations, your first Grand Prix victory.
Yeah, and then I'm very happy.
You certainly are. It's a great way to end the season. It must give you a lot of confidence for next year.
Yeah, I hope to have the next day like this next year with the same team.
Started off well, congratulations. Anything go wrong with the car? You came with a few laps to go. It was very powerful when you came on pros.
Car perfect.
Yeah. All right, so were you. Congratulations on your first victory.
It's a magnificent victory for the young Italian, only 25 years old. And as I said before, and I don't hesitate to say again, Michele Alboreto has today started to climb a ladder of motor racing greatness by achieving his first Grand Prix ever.
Allora, Michele l'ho conosciuto perché abitavamo nella stessa via. E quindi chiaramente frequentando varie compagnie ci siamo conosciuti e da lì è sbocciato il tutto, ma si parla di tantissimi anni fa perché avevamo 16-17 anni, quindi sapevo cosa andavo incontro, nel senso che ho iniziato con lui e sapevo che una cosa che la sua vita era la passione per le macchine.
Noi avevamo le macchinine piccole, eravamo ragazzini, e ognuno aveva il garage col proprio nome per fare le sfide con le macchinine, no? Appunto. E cosa succede? Che lui ne aveva talmente tante, perché lui era molto più appassionato di me, a me piacevano molto anche le moto, e a un certo punto lui non aveva più spazio nel suo cartone, che era il garage Michele, e io avevo il mio cartone garage Ermanno, e era costruito tutto in un armadio in stanza, nella nostra stanza. A un certo punto mi ha comprato lo spazio per parcheggiare le sue macchine, e quindi mi ha sfrattato e mi ha pagato proprio con una ciotola di riso. Ho detto: io voglio lo spazio perché ho bisogno di più spazio per le mie macchine.
While attending the 1969 Italian Grand Prix at his home circuit of Monza, Michele got his first taste of Grand Prix racing.
The approach to the Parabolica, down to the Vialoni, 185 miles an hour, 4 cars virtually together, and down to the Parabolica they come. Can Stewart hold the line on this, the last lap? Somebody's challenging, it's Rindt going through. Jock and Rindt takes the lead at the Parabolica on the last corner of the last lap. Beltois Beltoise going through. It's Beltoise taking the lead, and it's going to be a French Matra to win. It must be. It's over the line together, and it's almost a dead heat. It's Jackie Stewart, French, Beltoise and McLaren. Nobody has ever seen the finish of a motor race like that.
Incensed by motor racing, Michele wanted nothing more than to experience it for himself. A keen engineer as well, Alboreto had gained entry to his local circuit as a mechanic for Vincenzo Catafoni's Fiat 500 race car, regarded as one of the best drivers of the Fiat Abarth touring cars. Before that time, he would cut the fence to watch all the races at the circuit. As watching the Italian Grand Prix had become a yearly affair, Alboreto was in attendance for the 1970 race. Rindt was killed instantly on contact with the barriers and would become the first posthumous world champion for Lotus in Formula One's most deadly era. Despite Claire Regazzoni's stunning inaugural Grand Prix victory for Ferrari the day after, Alboreto would begin idolising Team Lotus, marking a standout figure in the sea of red.
Speaking of helmets, you have one of the most recognizable helmets in motorsports, and I understand it's a tribute to someone you admired, Ronnie Peterson?
Yes, was my good friend and was my favorite driver when I was young. So when I decided to start my career, I decided to keep the Swedish color. So that's why.
That's a tribute to him?
Yes.
After impressing in races in Formula Monza and Formula Italia from 1976 to 1978, Michele rose the ranks to Formula 3 for 1979 with Euro racing. In Italy, he would score second in the standings with victories at Magione, Misano and Imola, and would finish 6th in the European Series, dominated by Alain Prost.
Domenica a Monza è in programma il Gran Premio Lotteria di Formula Aurora, gara di contorno tecnicamente più importante e l'ottava prova del campionato europeo di Formula 3. Michele Alboreto, Marche Alfa Romeo, in ritardo di 10 punti dal leader il belga Butzen, è il pilota più atteso tra gli italiani.
Senti, quest'anno non ti pare di aver fatto un inizio un po' troppo bruciante con queste vittorie in Austria e in Francia?
Ma a dire la verità mi aspettavo fosse un po' più bruciante a metà stagione di essere già in testa al campionato europeo. Purtroppo ho avuto delle difficoltà con la vettura e quindi mi tocca inseguire Butzen che è in testa alla classifica.
Senti, e a Monza pensi di correre in casa? Che cos'è che temi di più, la macchina, il pubblico o la pista?
Ma temere non temo nessuno, diciamo che spero di trovare un buon pubblico, una buona macchina, una buona pista.
With further wins in Monza and Castle Kelden, Michele managed to snatch the championship from Butzen by 6 points.
Ancora una domanda. Prost, dopo aver conquistato il titolo europeo in Formula 3, è diventato subito uno dei protagonisti nel mondo della Formula 1. Pensi di fare altri tempi?
È un bel augurio, comunque Alain Prost, oltre ad essere un bravissimo pilota secondo me, è stato appoggiato dalla Marlboro francese, entra in una squadra McLaren, quindi è stato subito un bel passo per lui. Io non so se avrò la stessa fortuna, quindi probabilmente mi toccherà fare un anno di Formula 2 che ritengo senza dubbio necessario, forse anche alla mia pilota, che non mi farà male di sé.
Senti, sono più matti i piloti di Formula 3 o di Formula 1?
Come me.
Sono gli stessi, sono matti tutti.
Despite being tipped as one of the next big things, an F1 drive ceased to materialise for the start of 1981, and Michele was offered only a lone Formula 2 offer from Giancarlo Minardi to drive the ultimately uncompetitive BMW-powered Minardi 281. Michele would end up winning just one race in Formula 2 at Misano, after another podium at Enna-Pogusa, finishing the series in 8th, but after briefly starring in his first F2 race, and with the help of Italian patron Count Gugi Zanon, a drive in Formula 1 soon beckoned. The Tyrrell team had fallen from its World Championship heights of the 1970s, and had become a midfield runner, and Ken Tyrrell struggled to gain sponsors. After 3 races in 1981, Tyrrell, always one to spot rising talents, signed Michele through money from Zanon and Imola Ceramica. The 1981 Tyrrell 010 was far from a competitive car, headlined by an increasingly outdated Cosworth DFV while other teams were switching to turbo power, though Eddie Cheever managed to score 8 points in the car before scoring a further 2 points in the following model, the 011. Michele struggled initially to get to grips with the Tyrrell car and the ground effect where the car generated most of its downforce, scoring no points and making the top 10 just once at Zandvoort. The 1982 011 was a far stronger car than the previous, with Michele scoring 7 points finishes. His maiden podium came at the FISA FOCA battleground of the San Marino Grand Prix, followed by his maiden victory at the season finale, leaving him 8th in the standings. Tyrrell reportedly had a deal to run the BMW turbocharged engines for the 1983 campaign, but that deal never materialised, and the team had to move forward without turbo power again. In 1983, the turbocharged cars made an even larger leap forward ahead of the naturally aspirated machines, and after ground effect was nullified through the new flat-bottomed regulations, Tyrrell was left with an underpowered car that could only muster results on tight and twisty circuits due to its lightness.
Third, John Watson is fourth, as some 100,000 watch as they see the leaders go by the start-finish line. Remember, that is the leader, Nelson Piquet. And his lead is a very slim one, Dan Gurney, over second place, Michele Alboreto.
It seems to be stretching and then collapsing and stretching. It's nip and tuck.
I would say that is based on the fact that BMW Turbo seems to leak down the long straightaways, but that the Tyrrell car, the green car, gathers it up in the corners. 50 laps have been completed. Nelson Piquet first, Michele Alboreto second.
10 laps go and a 2.5-second lead. And Alboreto is closing.
There's something wrong with the lead car. Slowing down, Nelson Piquet. Michele Alboreto is taking the lead. Alboreto with the Tyrrell is going out and
flat tire. Look at that. A flat tire, left rear is flat.
But Michele Alboreto, who has not scored a point this year, now leads in the event.
He's certainly a deserving winner if he can pull it off.
So many have thought this afternoon they had it within their grasp. First it was Arnoux with a Ferrari that drew away from the field. Then Nelson Piquet seemed to have a lock on it. And now it is Alboreto. The training periods, the qualifying periods came pretty much when they expected. They've had a big calendar of events throughout the weekend. There are more races following this. The checkered flag is about to come down. It is held out. And the winner is coming to the last chicane. The Detroit Grand Prix 1983 is now motorsports history. An incredible upset, I would say.
This is a great combination that Tyrrell has put together. He couldn't be happier with Michele. He did it back at Caesar's Palace, and he certainly did it again today.
Well, here's the happiest man in pit lane, Ken Tyrrell, who's seen his young driver, Alboreto, win the Detroit Grand Prix. Congratulations, Ken.
Thanks very much, Barry.
Did you expect when this race began he was going to win it?
Well, he's had a very good practice, and he was quick in the wet, he was quick in the dry, and this marvellous new Ford engine that we have, and we had the right tyres with Goodyear. All we needed was Michele to trundle it round.
Ken, you discovered Jackie Stewart, John Surtees, Jackie X. How good is Michele Alboreto?
Oh, I don't think there's a better driver in Grand Prix racing today than Michele.
Ken Tyrrell putting the price of Alboreto up on the transfer market. Congratulations, Ken.
Detroit would prove to be a peak in a year of troughs for Michele and Tyrrell, as the Italian would score just 1 point in the last 8 races, though Michele's talents would soon be realised as a giant swooped in. Ferrari ended the 1970s in terrific style, winning the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships in 1979 with Jody Scheckter, alongside rising star Gilles Villeneuve. After 6 wins in 1979, the 1980 season began with an evolution of the 312 T4 that romped to both championships, which would turn out to be the worst year in the history of the Scuderia, scoring just 8 points to finish 10th in the Constructors' Championship, failing to finish on the podium at all. Formula One's turbo era was looming, and in 1981 Ferrari joined the turbocharged group with the new 126CK. Though not short on power, Ferrari's continued problems surrounding aerodynamics and poor reliability so often fraught in F1's turbo boom scuppered potential success, though 2 victories would come at the hands of Villeneuve at Monaco and Jarama. The 1982 126C2 boasted a more powerful and reliable turbo engine, as well as a full monocoque chassis featuring the honeycomb structure used by many British marques by this time. The aerodynamic overhaul vastly improved Ferrari's form, leading to the infamous duelling and eventual 1-2 at Imola. Villeneuve would end up colliding with the slow-moving car of Jochen Mass in qualifying for the next Grand Prix in Zolder, throwing his Ferrari up into the air, catapulting Gilles and his seat into the catch fencing, where he would succumb to a fractured neck. Despite losing its star driver, Ferrari mounted a title offence through Pironi as the season continued, but a horrendous accident during qualifying in Germany would sideline him for the rest of the season, as Keke Rosberg would snatch the title with a late season charge. A Constructors' Championship was little consolation to what could have been a year dominated by Ferrari. 1983 would be another year of potential, as Ferrari would notch up 4 wins with René Arnoux and Patrick Tambay to once again take the Constructors' crown, but poor reliability would cause Arnoux to miss out on the Drivers' Championship by 10 points to Nelson Piquet. Il Commendatore ruled Ferrari with an iron fist, and his Grand Prix exploits were no different. After growing fond of Alberto Ascari and Giuseppe Campari, both Italian drivers who perished in his cars, Enzo vowed never to have such intimate relationships with his drivers. And after further drivers Castellotti, Musso and Bandini were killed driving Ferrari cars, the Italian press would accuse him of being similar to the god Saturn, who consumed his own sons. After this, he became far more reluctant to hire Italian drivers, citing the pressure that came for an Italian driving for Ferrari. This, however, couldn't keep the old man from Michele. Midway through 1983, Ferrari's eyes had strayed from Villeneuve's replacement Patrick Tambay, and fresh off of winning the 1983 Detroit Grand Prix, Alboreto argued the case of his fellow successful Italians, Patrese and De Angelis, to drive for Ferrari, citing Ferrari's ill-placed pretense not to hire Italian drivers. From this interview, Michele was invited to Maranello and made an offer he couldn't refuse. Off the back of a resurgent 1983, Ferrari headed into 1984 confident its turbo program was on the right trajectory. Having recovered from the tragedies of 1982, and with Renier new and new Italian ace Michele Alboreto, all seemed to point to a successful 1984.
Five long months after the last Grand Prix of 1983, the new season begins here, today, in the sweltering heat of Brazil. Alain Prost, who so nearly won the championship last year with Renault, now drives for McLaren with Niki Lauda, and they're both potential champions. So, the 1984 season is about to begin. A very good start by Michele Alboreto, who has gone into the lead. Derek Warwick has passed Michele Alboreto, and Nelson Piquet has been left on the grid. Lauda passes Mansell. Mansell in 4th position now. De Angelis in 5th position behind him, and Niki Lauda has got a superb race tyre for this event. And look at Alain Prost now. Alain Prost coming through and passing. There he is, Alain Prost, number 7, passing Patrick Tambay. The Marlboro McLarens with their Porsche-designed V6 tag engines and their Michelin tyres are going to be the cars to watch in this race. Is Derek Warwick going fast enough to retain that lead? And Warwick is coming into the pits. New race leader of the Brazilian Grand Prix. You're looking at Alain Prost, number 7, ex-Renault team leader in his first Grand Prix for the tag-powered McLaren team. Victory for Alain Prost in Brazil.
Piquet in the foreground, and he's left again at the start. Piquet, as in Brazil, is left at the start.
So at the moment, Niki Lauda's got his hands very full.
And Lauda's going through and taking Rosberg. Yes, and there goes Lauda taking 2nd place. Niki Lauda is taking Teo Fabi on this, the 10th lap.
Maybe he's going into the pits. I think Nelson's going in for tires, probably. Yes, he is. Nelson into the pits.
And Niki Lauda takes the lead in the South African Grand Prix. After an absolutely magnificent drive from flag to flag. And the great Austrian Niki Lauda wins the South African Grand Prix in superb style. The World Championship now sees Alain Prost leading his teammate Niki Lauda by 6 clear points, with Keke Rosberg 3rd, Elio De Angelis and Derek Warwick 4th equal, Riccardo Patrese and Eddie Cheever 6th equal. And for the Constructors' Championship, McLaren lead by a country mile.
Anything as fast as the McLarens fell apart, anything as reliable finished later.
John Barnard's MP4-2 was a highly powerful, aerodynamically and fuel-efficient racer. Sporting brand new tag Porsche engines and equipped with carbon brakes, the car was the class of the field. Ferrari's opening 2 races had gone less swimmingly. While Alboreto led the early stages of the Brazilian Grand Prix, a loose bolt in his front right brake caliper released all brake fluid and led to retirement, as Renier New, driving a solid race in 4th, succumbed to an engine fire. South Africa was worse, as the 126C4 was slow in practice and in the race, Arnoux retiring halfway through with ignition troubles, and 1 lap from the end so too did Michele from 4th place, leaving the Scuderia pointless after 2 races and scratching their heads.
The Grand Prix scene moves to Europe, to Belgium. Not to the Spa circuit where the Belgian Grand Prix was held last year, but to Zolder, the scene of so many past Belgian Grand Prix. Now Zolder is very tough, it's very demanding. It's fairly flat, but it's twisty, it's hard on brakes, and it's going to be very difficult for the cars to go the race distance on a tank of fuel.
In practice, Ferrari, who've yet to score, really came good, with Michele Alboreto in pole position and his teammate René Arnoux second.
You look like you were working very hard out there, Michele.
Yeah, we worked very hard about the race, because we tried a lot the race tires and the full tanks this morning. And in the afternoon with the qualified car is perfect, and I have not problem to do in pole position.
Now, you started from pole position many times in your Formula 2 career, but this is your first pole position in Formula 1. What's it going to be like to have another 25 F1 cars behind you tomorrow?
I try that in Brazil, and I think I prefer this situation than the Kyalami situation.
You're the first Italian driver for Ferrari in many years, brought into the team by Enzo himself. This has to be a lifelong dream for you, to be on the front row of a 1-2 qualifying for Ferrari position?
I'm very happy, because for one Italian driver it's very important to drive good with Ferrari. And I'm so happy now, and I hope to drive good for all the season.
It's a 1-2 qualifying for Ferrari. Alboreto leads the field slowly round. There's the red. There's the green. The field move away, and Keke Rosberg falters. Keke Rosberg almost stalls in the Williams Honda, and Nelson Piquet's forced to go on the grass to go round him, but it's Alboreto who's made the best start, and a wonderful start from Derek Warwick in the yellow Renault, who's come up into second place. But on the first of 70 laps, Alboreto is right out in front and seems to be determined to stay there.
Alain Prost looks to be in mechanical trouble and slowing down, which will be a great disappointment to the McLaren team. Niki Lauda is way back in something like 11th place at the moment.
McLaren, who seemed so dominant, have now already lost one of their cars. And now it is still Alboreto leading, Warwick second, Arnoux third, Winkelhock fourth. Warwick comes into the pit in second position. And number 27 in the red Ferrari, Michele Alboreto, who has led from the time the lights went to green, is still in the lead. And off there, off, incredible, off goes Alboreto. That's the rhythm of Nelson Piquet, so Piquet out of the race. So Alboreto leads still by a cool 39 seconds from Derek Warwick. So out of the race, Patrese, Prost, Boutsen, Mansell, Lafitte, Eno, Chiva, Winkelhock, Lauda, Brundle, Farby, Baldi, and now Nelson Piquet. And you are looking at a man who has driven an absolutely superb race. He qualified in pole position after practice. He confirmed his promise by being fastest in the warm-up lap. He has brought Ferrari to the forefront again.
He's, for the first time, confirming the really exceptional talent he has. He's poised, he makes no mistakes, and he's driven an absolutely flawless and immaculate race today.
Into the final Jackie X chicane. The crowd starting to cheer as he comes into sight on the start-finish line. The Ferrari takes the checkered flag. Michele Alboreto wins the opening European race of the 1984 World Championship, scores 9 points to break Ferrari's duck for the year.
Well, Zolder's lived up to its reputation as a car breaker. Very few cars finished, but what an absolutely magnificent drive by Michele Alboreto. His first win for Ferrari.
Michele, your third Grand Prix victory, a flag-to-flag lead throughout the whole race. What was your toughest part of this event?
But easy than Kyalami.
Yes, much easier, that's for sure.
Because my car is was perfect from the start to the finish. I have absolutely no problem, and everything is getting better.
You got a fantastic start off the line, leading everyone into the first corner.
I have a little bit wheel spin, but after, no problem. In second and third gear, I go out.
9 points in the World Championship with none of the leaders really scoring any points. This gives you a very good situation for the championship.
We start now in the championship.
Another important conquest and crown is about to be decided on Portuguese territory. For the title to be taken this weekend is the Formula One World Championship of Drivers, all coming down after thousands of race miles to 2 teammates separated by only 3.5 points for the title. Drivers Niki Lauda and Alain Prost, both with McLaren International, have achieved the finest race results for a single team in the history of modern Grand Prix racing, taking 11 wins for 15 starts.
Ferrari's season came to a shuddering crawl after the third round of 1984, with Alboreto and Arnoux only able to scrounge together a handful of podiums across the season. And once the dust settled after Lauda's slim championship victory over Prost in Portugal, Ferrari finished the season in a distant second. Ferrari's 126 C4 was an aerodynamically inefficient car, with both drivers complaining of a constant lack of grip, meaning the aerodynamics of the car had to be used to the extreme to make the car turn, hemorrhaging huge speed in the straights. F1's new non-refueling regulations meant that the cars were restricted to 220 litres per race, meaning this loss of speed also made the car more inefficient, and resulted in a midfield runner and a disappointing end to a year that had much potential.
How are you looking forward to this year?
Very much. I think last year was a bit of a turning point in Grand Prix racing in that the cars got closer in performance, and I think that this year there are no major new developments, so hopefully the relative performance of the cars will sort of concertina up, and we should get some very close racing this year.
Last year McLaren won 12 races, which means to say that hardly anybody else got a proper look in. And everybody's going to be stung to action and looking for revenge in 1985 and trying to drive the red and white cars into the ground.
Ferrari, same drivers, another new car that promises much, but last year they flattered only to deceive.
I've always been a little bit perplexed by their decision, which in theory was a good one, to hire English design when they hired Harvey Postlethwaite. But they did, having decided to use British technology, which was the right decision because they were definitely behind on chassis design. They picked the one chap who never designed a winning car. And I don't know how much of the Ferrari Harvey is now designing, but judging by the results, I suspect too much.
But they seem to be doing the right sort of things in terms of configuration, and I would expect Ferrari to do very much better this year than they did last year.
They've got the ability to bulldoze in that they've got lots of money and lots of testing facilities, so if they can't do it with finesse and talent, they can go out and do it by brute force and ignorance, just by putting in huge mileages.
Ecco la Ferrari 156-85, motore nuovo, tecnologia d'avanguardia per la costruzione del telaio. È la macchina del riscatto della cosiddetta nazionale rossa. Per riprenderla c'è bisogno del teleobiettivo. La pista è infatti un bunker inaccessibile. Tutto è top secret, al di là della rete. La scuderia di Maranello ha passato l'inverno sperimentando soluzioni che le hanno permesso di primeggiare, di battere record su record. Alboreto, lei ha detto che l'85 sarà un anno Ferrari. Su che cosa basa questo giudizio?
Ma innanzitutto sull'esperienza che abbiamo fatto l'anno scorso, diciamo nella seconda parte del campionato, cercando di migliorare quelli che erano i difetti della Ferrari C4.
Cosa si aspetta dal mondiale che sta per cominciare?
Mi aspetto di fare una buona stagione, nel senso di dare sempre il meglio di me stesso, di riuscire a fare bene il mio mestiere, ecco, di dare dei risultati che possono essere vincere molto oppure soltanto fare del proprio meglio compatibilmente con quanto si può fare.
Quali sono gli avversari da temere? Lotus,
Ma io direi innanzitutto McLaren, perché è la macchina che ha dominato tutta la scorsa stagione e credo che il vantaggio che aveva sulle altre vetture consentirà a questa squadra di essere competitiva almeno per la prima parte della stagione.
lunedì 25 a Brands Hatch, in Inghilterra. Battesimo della pista con Niki Lauda per la regina, la McLaren MP4B. Dietro questa sigla c'è la versione riveduta e corretta della macchina campione del mondo. Non ci sono cambiamenti rivoluzionari nell'aerodinamica, diverse le sospensioni posteriori e qualche modifica all'avantreno che deve adattarsi ai nuovi pneumatici. Alla Porsche, a Stoccarda, hanno lavorato molto sul motore per renderlo ancora più competitivo. È un'altra macchina vincente, ha detto Lauda.
Pomeriggio, è Oscar Orefici che vi parla da Monte Carlo quando già si respira l'atmosfera concitata che precede la partenza di questo Gran Premio, il Gran Premio di Monaco, che viene considerato da sempre la gara più prestigiosa dell'intera stagione.
1985 was Ferrari's best start to a season since the turbo engines were introduced at Maranello. Alboreto had taken pole at the season opener in Brazil and only finished second to Prost for a missed gear change which stole the lead from him. Senna's wet weather heroics at Estoril in the next race blew everyone away, and the Brazilian lapped everyone except Alboreto, who picked up another second place. Alboreto had been a contender in San Marino until an electrical issue put paid to a third successive podium to start the season.
Classifica mondiale con De Angelis ed Alboreto ai primi due posti, Tambè non molto forte ma ha raccolto punti, Prost e Senna pari merito e un Butzen, ecco l'outsider. Beh, i tempi della griglia di partenza non sono secondo me così significativi come i risultati vorrebbero far credere. Certo, chi parte davanti ha un notevole vantaggio e di questo usufruirà soprattutto Senna, il quale forse anche strategicamente con questo rallentamento di Alboreto si ritrova l'antagonista numero uno. Alboreto è stato velocissimo nelle prove che hanno preceduto il miglior tempo di Senna. Vedremo cosa riuscirà a fare in gara, ma vedete che abbiamo Senna e Mansell, due leoni. In seconda fila un Alboreto e Civer. Alboreto gara prudente, pensa mondiale, Civer attacco, quindi andrà su quelli davanti.
Parliamo della corsa di oggi, secondo te che possibilità hai?
Ma le possibilità penso che siano buone, è una corsa molto lunga, impegnativa, difficile, bisogna arrivare con la macchina a metà gara nelle migliori condizioni senza aver toccato da nessun muretto, senza aver sbilanciato la macchina in qualche cordolo. Se si riesce ad arrivare a metà gara con una macchina in buone condizioni si può pensare di arrivare molto bene alla fine. Un po' sì, perché qui partire in prima linea è molto importante, anche perché è importante dare il proprio ritmo alla corsa, non aspettare che qualcun altro lo dia. Comunque mi va bene così, ecco.
Un'ultima domanda, quale tattica di gara adotterai per oggi?
Ma aspetterò di vedere la prima curva, se ci sarà da evitare qualche pezzo, no? Perché i due piloti che abbiamo davanti di solito alla partita sono un po' nervosi, un po' focosi. Se tutto andrà bene nei primi giri cercherò di spingere il più possibile per costringere chi è davanti ad attaccare e commettere qualche errore. Penso che sia l'unica strategia possibile finora.
The Monaco Grand Prix is a race of attrition. It's a race for survivors. It's very hard on cars. It's very hard on drivers. The track is tight. Overtaking is more difficult here than at any other track in the world. So it's a particularly hard race, and it's one where defensive driving style becomes all important.
78 laps. Up to the notorious Sand of Ott, and the first men are through. Johansson is through, and right down at the bottom is Patrick Tambay, and it's Senna leading. In second position is Nigel Mansell. Then it is Michele Alboreto as they go round the portiere, and now Senna will be piling on all the power he can to try and get a breakaway, with Nigel Mansell in second place, Michele Alboreto in third position in the Ferrari, coming through to complete lap 1 out of 78.
Alboreto having a look. Alboreto through. Well, Michele Alboreto gave it everything he could on the braking manoeuvre. He got past Mansell.
Ayrton Senna leading then. Alboreto in second place. There he is. In third position, it is Alain Prost. You can see for yourself now that on lap 4, Alboreto is right up with the leader, Ayrton Senna. His problem now is knowing exactly where Michele Alboreto is, i.e. right behind him. You can see him in his mirrors. To make sure that he sticks to his racing line, gives Alboreto no chance to get past, makes it very difficult indeed for the Italian in the Ferrari. And provided he does that, it is indeed going to be difficult for Michele to get through.
Prost is hauling them in really fast. Prost has absolutely romped away from Eddie Cheever, and he will shortly be joining the leading two. Ayrton Senna looks to be in engine or turbo trouble.
Well, that is the sensation of the race so far. Ayrton Senna, who led in such a distinguished way, has lost the lead. There you see Alboreto going in, and now Alain Prost, last year's winner in those dreadful weather conditions, has got to set about trying to catch the man who has always been the favourite for this race, Michele Alboreto. There is the new race leader, 3 race victories in the past.
My car was really, really good in this moment. I feel the race in my hand, but unfortunately was an accident between Patrese and Piquet.
And that's Piquet's car and Patrese going off. Ricardo Patrese in the Alfa Romeo, and this is lap 17. So Piquet, Patrese and Savfk in a tremendous coming together at Jean de Vos.
And that is Alboreto. So Alboreto has spun on the mess, presumably. I think they put some oil down. So Alboreto, there goes Prost through into the lead. So Alboreto has spun his lead away.
Well, leading is Alain Prost in the McLaren. In second position, despite his spin, is Michele Alboreto. And soon we're going to be seeing a really exciting battle for the lead, with Michele Alboreto having recovered, closed right up with Alain Prost. And look at Alboreto swarming all over Alain Prost's gearbox.
The adrenaline charge from his mistake has really stung Alboreto into hyperaction. And Alboreto is... Oh, he's really having a go, Michele Alboreto.
Alboreto in terrific form this season. There are the leaders, Prost, Alboreto, De Angelis, and you can see how close they are.
My car was really good, and he missed a gear in this place, and it was possible for me to pass him.
And he's through! Michele Alboreto has done it, and at turn the Vos on the new lap, surges through and takes the lead back from Alain Prost. And look at the gap he's already extended over the Frenchman's McLaren. Michele Alboreto is without doubt the fastest man in the race, and showing it.
In this moment I feel the race again in my hand. But was too soon because I punched a tire.
And Prost goes through. Prost retakes that lead from Michele Alboreto on lap 32.
And I must stop in the pits to change the tires.
And there is Alboreto, 4th. And Alboreto is going quicker and quicker. 1:24.17, his fastest lap so far, and of course the fastest lap of the race.
Now that he's got those new tyres scrubbed in, he seems to be really motoring. He's the quickest man on the circuit at the moment.
Well, he's certainly closing on De Cesaris. Here they are. De Cesaris is a notoriously difficult man to get past. Now he's closer than ever as he comes up to the Hotel de Paris. This could be his opportunity to come out of the slipstream of De Cesaris' car and get through on braking as they go down the Mirabeau. But De Cesaris shuts the door, which fails, and Alboreto goes through beautifully. The order is Alain Prost in the lead with De Angelis 2nd, Alboreto 3rd, De Cesaris 4th. And this is the excitement, because Michele Alboreto, in third place in the Scarlet Ferrari, has conducted a fantastic charge through the field after having to stop to change a punctured left rear tyre. He has carved down the gap between himself and Elio De Angelis in the JPS Lotus Renault, who is second, as Alboreto goes through and takes that second position in as stirring a passing manoeuvre, getting past De Angelis and Sandervot, as he had earlier on when he got the race leadership from Prost. 26 seconds between the leader and the second place man. And just look at the way Michele Alboreto is throwing that V6 Ferrari about with some 750 horsepower under his foot. Prost on the descent, and the gap now is 22 seconds. And Michele Alboreto is really flying. He's significantly closing the gap between himself and Smoky Alain Prost's McLaren, and the gap now is 20 seconds. Michele Alboreto charging hard in second position,
but no chance to catch Prost for the first place.
Here is the leader, and here is the winner, Alain Prost, in the Marlboro McLaren with the tag engine for the second year in succession, wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
I was really happy with my second place, because when you make a pit stop in Monte Carlo, normally it's really difficult to be in the point at the end of the race. It was a good result for me, but I am sure my car was better than the McLaren.
Michele Alboreto, una gara veramente eccezionale. Quando sembrava che tutto fosse perduto, invece sei riuscito a conquistare un secondo posto che ti rilancia anche nel mondiale, anzi ti lancia ancora meglio.
Sì, però la cosa che ancora una volta devo dire è che questa era una gara che si poteva vincere e purtroppo siamo solo secondi.
Uno sguardo al domani, appunto, il mondiale.
Il mondiale credo che sia molto difficile e molto duro quest'anno, però l'importante è essere sempre lì in lotta per poterlo conquistare. Adesso veramente comincia a mancarmi una vittoria.
Canada was a real turning point in the season for Michele, because he felt that something was against him winning in 1985. He picked up 3 second places, 2 of which he felt he could have won, and wasn't given the chance to fight in Imola. And coming into Canada, he was equal second in the championship with Prost.
And look how close Alboreto has now got to the Lotus, very close indeed. He's now only about 2.5 seconds behind the Lotus, which means that the Lotus has caught him up by 2 healthy seconds.
Alboreto and the number 27 Ferrari now starting to put the pressure on De Angelis.
Elio does drive very well, and he's not an easy man to pass, but if there's anybody can pass him, I would choose Alboreto. Here he goes, and he's trying to do it in a difficult spot. He was trying to go around the outside of De Angelis. I wouldn't have chosen quite there. Look at him pulling along there now. Now he's got his turbo boost up, but again he's in the wrong line. He can't do it. Albo, I think, is teasing just a wee bit. He's pushing and shoving. Can he do it? He's done it. He's done it. He's done it. An enormous crowd rushed up there to their feet and yelled. We can hear them in here.
The number 27 Ferrari has taken the lead on the Circuit Villeneuve here in Montreal. So it is Alboreto first. The pole sitter, De Angelis, now running second.
Right now the man that's flying is Alboreto. Very talented, very mature Italian driver. Not a very emotional man, and emotion, quite frankly, in a Grand Prix cockpit is more your enemy than it is your friend. And it's very difficult for a lap to be able to keep that kind of cool, calm and collected atmosphere, and certainly both of those drivers are clearly doing it now. However, De Angelis has certainly dropped back from the Ferrari. He certainly lost a lot of ground in the last 2 laps. Look at the gap there. So Alboreto has put on a little bit of pressure there. He was due for a win this year. He really should have won Monte Carlo, in my opinion. He deserved to win Monte Carlo. And he was done out of it, frankly, by picking up a nail or a piece of glass or something foreign on the racetrack, and he had a puncture. But he drove a beautiful race.
and he really should have a win. This would certainly make the World Championship a great deal more interesting by him being able to win here if he allows the car to last that long. Stefan Johansson is picking up space on Elio De Angelis. He's really within a second now of the car of De Angelis. Here he's going to pass. He's trying to do it. He's done it. He's done it. Ferrari first and second.
The race is far from over. We're on lap 51. This is a 70-lap race. It is Alboreto now over Johansson. De Angelis is running third.
And look how the two Ferraris are within some distance of each other now. Johansson has really caught up Alboreto. Now look, Alain Prost is right up behind Elio De Angelis. Alain Prost is seriously getting into Elio De Angelis. You're going to see a pass.
Here's the man that should do it this afternoon, Michele Alboreto, as he tries for his 4th career victory. As Alain Prost is continuing to chase the two Ferraris, Michele Alboreto and Stefan Johansson.
Johansson and Prost almost side by side. Oh, that's Ligier, that was De Cesare there to get through. Look at how busy it is. Alain Prost going to be held up by De Cesare, I think. The Ferrari gets clear. That's Alboreto. He's through. He's okay. Then an arrow. Then Johansson. Look, Alain Prost lost it.
The checkered flag is out for car number 27, the Ferrari of Italy's Michele Alboreto. It's official, Ferrari has finished 1-2 for the second time in Canadian Grand Prix history. It is Alboreto first, Johansson second, and the Frenchman, the McLaren veteran, Alain Prost finishing third.
And a proud Ferrari flag waving high in the hills of the grandstands.
And if my arithmetic is correct, Michele Alboreto leads the world driving standings with 27 points. Alain Prost is now tied with Elio De Angelis. His 4th career victory, won last year for Ferrari in Belgium, and for the second time wins for Ferrari.
A driver who I think we have a very good chance of seeing on the same kind of podium when the World Championship presentation comes round. I think it will be he or Alain Prost.
I had no problem at all from the beginning to the finish. My car was, I think, the best in the track. A fantastic engine, good traction, very low consumption. I think was really good.
Easy to pass Elio?
Not easy, but with our engine, I think is much easier than normal.
Stefan got quite close to you in one stage.
Yeah, because we have 2 good cars. I think is our position, first and second.
And no team rules?
No, I don't think so. Yes. I think we have not problem with me and Stefan. I think it was much more dangerous to have a war in the family, you know.
Canada, I would have won for sure if it hadn't been team orders. I finished second behind Michele. That was my second or third race with the team. You know, I was incredibly fond of Michele, obviously, and you know, when we were teammates at Ferrari, it was tense at times because you know it is because you know. The first goal is always to beat your teammate, you know, because that's only the really real reference point you have, you know. But I mean, we had a pretty good relationship, I'd say. I mean, we were you know, good friends always, and but it was fierce at the same time. It has to be when you're in a team like Ferrari, you know. You got to get the job done.
A podium in Detroit with Prost retiring increased Michele's championship lead, but a reverse of that result in France brought Prost closer, the turbo letting go on the Ferrari 6 laps into the race. Prost took victory in Silverstone with Michele finishing a brilliant second, and in Germany Alboreto was able to score his 2nd win of the season. Ten years later, Alboreto would explain a change made to the Ferrari 15685 that would send all chances of a world championship up in smoke. Ferrari's turbo engines had been, from the beginning, powered by KKK turbines, a German manufacturer, who began to supply the Tag Porsche engines ran in the McLaren cars from 1984. After the victory in Germany, right at the home of Porsche who wanted to celebrate with a victory by Prost, the troubles for Ferrari began. Parts inexplicably had started to break, and these parts came from German companies that supplied the same components to McLaren Porsche. The parts were examined, but no defects were found, and then the suspicion arose that they were of lower quality standards than those supplied to Ron Dennis's team. Enzo Ferrari, incensed by the prospect of this being true, speaking to Alboreto and sporting director Marco Piccinini, erupted and immediately ordered that the German turbines be replaced with American ones. The Ferrari Turbo V6 had been designed with the KKK turbos in mind, and thus wouldn't be suited to a different design of turbine, and Piccinini pointed out as much, but the deal was done. A delivery of Garrett turbos arrived at Ferrari, and without sufficient mileage and testing, the outcome was as expected. Alboreto would score his final podium of the season in Austria, with Prost's win putting the two level on points. But after Michele's Ferrari placed 4th in Zandvoort, Alboreto would not make the checkered flag again.
And that must be Alboreto. That will be the turbo, the oil in the turbo.
And he will certainly realise that he is out of the World Championship. No points again. This is the 5th retirement. But Michele Alboreto will be bitterly disappointed and frustrated. He's been pretty fed up with the Ferrari team. He's getting out of the car now. He's going to jump to safety. Alboreto is out of the race. Alboreto is out of the World Championship. If Alain Prost finishes 5th or higher, he is going to be the World Champion of 1985.
Come ha vissuto? Perché quel secondo posto per un pilota nel mondiale potrebbe essere una cosa da scrivere e mettersi comunque in bacheca, invece lui l'ha sempre vissuto come un mondiale che gli è stato tolto sotto i piedi.
Sì, beh, sicuramente, ma anche perché lo stesso Ferrari poi a un certo punto l'ha anche ammesso che praticamente è stato un mondiale negato, non è per essere, ma comunque perché effettivamente ha cominciato a rompersi le macchine, queste benedette turbine che non funzionavano, il cambio delle turbine è stato un errore, chiaro, non si sapeva all'epoca. E quindi lui ha cominciato da che era in testa, ha cominciato a rompersi la macchina, queste cose qui, e quindi chiaramente non è che fosse molto felice, perché ovviamente se tu sai che puoi arrivare e però non hai più il mezzo per arrivarci, è chiaro che insomma non è che sei felice, e quindi la vedi come una sorta di beffa del destino che non ti ha dato l'opportunità insomma di arrivare dove tutti chiaramente i piloti aspirano ad arrivare, cioè vincere un mondiale.
In '86, how quickly did you know that things were going to be difficult that year?
I think both Michele and I knew the moment we saw the car. I mean, we were called to the factory, you know, to finally see the new car before we started testing and everything. And we go in this room and they pull the sheet off it, you know, and we both look at each other like, oh dear, this is going to be a long year. Because the car just didn't look right. I mean, it was big and bulky and it just didn't look fast, you know, and it turned out not to be very fast. You know.
1986 would bring more misfortune for Ferrari, as a slow midfield car was enhanced by its unreliability, of which Michele suffered the brunt of, retiring 9 times from 16 races. The only highlight to a dismal season was Michele's high-flying Italian Grand Prix, where the Ferrari looked quickest in the race, but a spin would take away all chances of a fairy tale victory. Johansson would outperform Michele that year, but that wasn't enough to keep his seat.
Yeah, it was politics, you know. I mean, like, I was too wet behind the ears to know, you know, who to stroke, and I think just the Italian component and everything else, you know, I think I did what I set out to do that year, which was to beat Michele in the championships. That, you know, we knew the car wasn't going to be good enough to win races. So my focus was basically on scoring as many points as I could under the circumstances, you know. So, and that's what I did, you know. But politics obviously played a big part of it.
To solve their problem, Ferrari dramatically recruited John Barnard as their technical director.
Now, you are known, to put it mildly, as a man who is determined to have things done his way. And it's not going to work if you don't get your way at Ferrari. Now, so what sort of authority, real authority, have you got at Ferrari?
Well, I've got technical authority over all the areas, including the engine side, up to the level, effectively, of Enzo. I report to him, and if you want, he's the one man that can say no.
I'm also told that Barnard has created the ultimate sin of stopping the Italians from drinking Lambrusco during their lunch break. Is that true?
I think I may have actually unloaded something there, Murray, that one day will fall out of the sky and hit me on the head.
Ferrari introduced their all-new 1987 car at Imola recently, together with their new driver, Austrian Gerhard Berger. How do you think the new Ferrari team will do this year? Alboreto, yourself and John Barnard.
Oh, I hope we win some races.
How many?
Oh, I don't know, but I would like to win all races. But no, if we win 3-4 races, would be nice.
Com'è stato il rapporto con l'austriaco?
Con l'austriaco buonissimo, un buon rapporto. Non era certo con lui che Michele si era innervosito, ma perché
si era innervosito con John Barnard.
John Barnard, effettivamente, e poi ovviamente piano piano gli equilibri stavano cambiando. Stava entrando la Fiat, stava entrato Ghidella ha cominciato ad avere, cioè a capire che non voleva più Michele, perché Michele faceva parte dell'ingegneria, cioè della fase prima, diciamo, e quindi chiaramente tutti gli equilibri sono cambiati, ma con Gerhard andava d'accordissimo, non era colpa di Gerhard, era colpa del cambiamento che ci sarebbe stato.
Quindi Enzo contava un po' di meno già in quel periodo?
Secondo me si cominciava.
Michele's relationship with Mr. Ferrari had always been unique. Enzo's pretense of disallowing Italian drivers to race for the Scarlet team was what attracted him to Michele after his opposition to this notion, and Michele proved that racing for Ferrari as an Italian did not faze him.
So it's extra pressure, even beyond having to go faster than normal. You have extra pressure from the crowds and the fans and the press and everything.
The pressure go off when you come into the car, you know, and when you drive you forget everything. It's a Grand Prix like all the others.
Well, when you're going down that straightaway and you see the hundreds of thousands of people with the Ferrari flags, you can't tell me that it doesn't add an extra bit of difficulty for you.
It's an extra motivation for the driver. Yes, that's true. But I think finally you use the same concentration as the other Grand Prix.
Enzo described Michele as having a fast, beautiful style, with qualities that reminded him of Wolfgang von Trips, including his off-track mannerisms.
Era come padre e figlio, perché in effetti Michele è stato uno dei pochi che ha ricevuto in regalo una macchina, cosa che Enzo Ferrari guai, perché non regalava niente a nessuno.
In Italy, Alboreto became a household name, but a Ferrari driver gaining popularity can also have a negative impact when you aren't doing so well.
I remember very well that when I arrived in Formula One in 1987 and before 86 and 85 with Tyrrell, Michele Alboreto was already driving for Ferrari. He spent 5 years, Michele, in the Ferrari team, and I remember very well how much was the pressure on him and the Ferrari team from the Italian press, but also how much Ferrari was defending the position of Michele, actually defending his work. And this could actually happen because Ferrari was there and Michele was his choice.
The excitement of the Japanese Grand Prix is very much still to come. And on Honda's home territory, to their chagrin, it's the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger that takes pole position for the second time this year, with a superb lap in the dying moments of qualifying. Fourth on the grid, further underlining Ferrari's return to competitiveness, is Michele Alboreto, but he's disappointed not to be joining his teammate on the front row.
Michele, first for Gerhard, fourth for you. Are you pleased with your grid position?
Yes, because the second row is okay for the race, but our car can be in the first row with both drivers, so I'm not very happy.
And what about your chances of taking the checkered flag today? You've only finished 2 races this year.
I know, it's a good question, but that's the sport. There's one wrong here, and I hope to finish well these 2 races.
1987 was Michele's toughest year in Formula One, despite the vast improvements made at Ferrari. Gustav Brunner designed the car, and when John Barnard joined the team in late 1986, he was able to influence the car despite not designing it. Barnard's straightforward, hard-lined approach alienated much of the team on his arrival, including Michele, favouring newcomer Berger, which caused a rupture within the team. Michele had tried to iron out the issues Barnard had with him before the season began, but John said there were none and continued to work in his way. Across the season, the internal situation got so poor, a deal with Williams for 1988 was almost struck for Michele before the old man convinced him to stay. Berger's arrival had also not helped Michele's case, consistently outqualifying the Italian and scoring 2 wins in the final 2 rounds of the season, while Michele would only nab 3 podiums, scoring less than half of Berger's points, namely due to the Ferrari's woeful reliability. 1988 would prove just as difficult, as no one could have predicted how dominant McLaren would be. The new McLaren-Honda partnership eclipsed the regulations, and the MP4 would stand as the most successful car in F1 history for 25 years. As for Michele, 1988 would see his final podiums for Ferrari as, for 1989, Enzo had chosen Nigel Mansell to join the Scuderia, and Michele, having fallen out of favour after being beaten in his last 3 seasons by his teammates, left Ferrari, but not before one more heroic moment.
Senna leading by 11 seconds, Berger there second, Alboreto there in 3rd position.
But as we come into the closing stages, he's certainly being caught by the Ferraris, much to the enormous excitement of this loyal and partisan crowd. And that's Ayrton Senna spun round on the curbs. Ayrton Senna on the curbs. What has happened there? Well, we've seen him on the curbs so many times, we wonder what could possibly have happened. But we'll have to see, but the local fans going wild because they know this means that Gerhard Berger and Michele Alboreto are in 1st place and 2nd place. Michele Alboreto, one of the real nice guys of Formula 1, and closing up on Gerhard Berger. Berger now has a back marker, Mauricio Gugelmin ahead of him.
Yeah, this could make all the difference, actually.
And we really are in the closing stages of this race. This final corner now, the Parabolica, they're through there. Michele isn't really in a challenging position. Gerhard Berger hasn't been held up. They're coming up to the checkered flag, and it's a Ferrari victory at home at Monza.
Less than a month before, on the 14th of August, Enzo Ferrari passed away aged 90 from leukemia, and with the Ferraris crossing the line in an emotional 1-2 at Monza, it was a tribute Enzo would have been proud of.
No, it was a great day for Ferrari today, and I think it's the best to remember Mr. Ferrari.
Non mi ricordo benissimo, ma so che c'era stato qualcosa con la benzina, nel senso che avevano detto a Michele che c'era
ha finito con 1 chilo di benzina, Michele ne aveva 11 nel serbatoio, quindi teoricamente avrebbe potuto tirare molto di più per ottenere il successo in quella situazione.
Esatto, e invece c'era stata questa cosa che non gliel'avevano detto e quindi lui poi chiaramente si è innervosito perché sembrava insomma un po' una cosa già organizzata.
Cosa hai pensato sul podio quando eri lì e suonava l'inno nazionale?
Ma quando ero io dall'altra parte nel 70 ero lì sotto ad applaudire Clay Regazzoni nella sua vittoria, per cui è tutto un miscuglio di ricordi, di sensazioni, e dal mio ultimo Gran Premio in Italia con la Ferrari penso di averlo fatto al meglio.
Mancava forse uno spettatore.
Sì, in effetti ecco, era da dedicare a Enzo Ferrari, vorremmo appunto tutti quanti che fosse qui a vedere cosa abbiamo fatto oggi per lui anche.
Formula 1 would be less kind to Michele after Ferrari. He would move to the familiar team of Tyrrell, who had yet to score a podium since Michele's win in Detroit 6 years before. Despite this, Postlethwaite and Mijo's Tyrrell 018 showed flashes of competitiveness, as Michele would score his final F1 podium at Mexico. But by the French Grand Prix 3 races later, Ken Tyrrell had told Michele to lose sponsorship with Marlboro, as Camel had offered to sponsor the Naked Tyrrell team, a deal Michele declined and was promptly sacked. From there, outings with LaRousse to bookend 1989 yielded no points, and forwarded a move to the Footwork Arrows team for 1990, where an uncompetitive evolution of its 1989 car once more brought Michele no success.
Durante un test a Imola con la Footwork tira una cannonata terrificante perché la macchina aveva un monopilone anteriore che reggeva l'ala, si è rotto il monopilone, è sparita l'ala e quindi è andato dritto per dritto contro il muro. Cosa ti ha raccontato di quell'esperienza?
Allora, di quell'esperienza io so poco, nel senso che lui chiaramente si è fatto male, praticamente lui non ha detto niente, e finché a un certo punto mi ha chiamato e mi ha detto: guarda, mi sono fatto un po' male, ho avuto un incidente, non ti preoccupare, così. E dico: ma scusa, ma ti vengo a prendere, ma cosa fai? No, non importa, tanto mi sono fatto poco. E ho visto praticamente la tuta era insanguinata, distrutta, e dico: mamma mia, veramente, cioè. E poi dopo ho visto la dinamica dell'incidente e mi sono messa le mani nei capelli, però per lui aveva sdrammatizzato tutto ed era anche tornato da solo in macchina a casa. Ma tanto io comunque ero sempre agitata, che anche incidenti ne aveva avuti altri, aveva avuto anche quello a Monte Carlo, e insomma di incidenti ne ha fatti, e comunque insomma uno rimane sempre, perché fa un po' come gli struzzi, cerca di dimenticarsi la pericolosità di questo lavoro, però chiaramente quando poi succedono queste cose ritorna alla ribalta l'ansia, voglio dire, perché comunque ne avevo visti purtroppo tanti che...
Footwork's failed partnership with Porsche and eventual relapse to Cosworth Power brought Michele just 2 finishes all year in 1991, and 7 occasions where the Italian failed to qualify. 1992 would prove to be one of Michele's most complete seasons as a driver, despite the subpar machinery. The Mugen Honda engine proved far more reliable, resulting in only 1 retirement due to engine issues, the other from gearbox troubles. 2 6th places in Brazil and Portugal were succeeded by 2 5th places in Spain and San Marino, as well as a litany of impressive but fruitless 7th places, finishing the season in 10th on 6 points.
In the points for the 3rd race in succession. Isn't it amazing how fortunes can change in Formula One?
1993 would see a move to the underperforming Scuderia Italia team, where more qualifying failures occurred. And in 1994, Michele would score 1 solitary point at Monaco, in a last showing of the excellence that convinced Il Commendatore to sign him a decade earlier.
Michele Alboreto, the veteran ex-Ferrari driver, is back in the points. I say back because he hasn't been there for a very, very long time.
Tell us something about what it was like competing against the 3-time world champion from Brazil, Ayrton Senna.
Well, the story between me and Ayrton, because we are riding Formula 1 more or less at the same moment. We grow up as 2 young, aggressive drivers, and at the beginning of our career, we have a big fight, very big fight. I remember 2 or 3 times when we was very, very close to have a big crashes, but we push out each other 2 or 3 times in a very bad way. And Mr. Ferrari called us and says both of us, remember that sooner or later you could be teammates, so I want now you shake your hands and stop these things, because it was already for 2 or 3 races we push out each other.
And so Enzo played the peacemaker.
Yeah, because he's supposed to have both of us in the team sooner or later, so he was really a good fan of Ayrton. And we shake hands and we became a friend from that moment. Mm-hmm. And after that everything was much easier. He calmed down, I calmed down, and we have a different career in the end, because when I left Ferrari unfortunately I didn't have the chance to have a competitive car anymore, but he makes a fantastic career and was my favorite guy because he was very clever, very serious, and I don't think that now even Schumacher can. I'm talking about the driving point of view, but as a person, it's difficult to be like Ayrton was.
In the wake of Roland Ratzenberger's accident at Imola that took his life, Senna, together with Alboreto, Berger and Schumacher, were to meet in Monaco 2 weeks later to discuss the changes to be made to ensure the safety of the drivers.
L'incidente ad Ayrton quanto ha pesato su Michele? Perché poi di fatto quella è stata la sua ultima stagione. Io penso che da lì abbia visto il mondo della Formula 1 in un modo diverso.
Sì, sicuramente, perché poi lui si è battuto tanto per la sicurezza, perché è anche andato in tribunale per la storia per il processo con Ayrton, queste cose qui, quindi sì, forse alla fine era un po' anche disgustato da questo mondo che era un po', non so, stava cambiando, comunque sì, lui lì si era veramente un po' demoralizzato sicuramente, e si era battuto molto per questa cosa di Ayrton.
Succede di tutto in quel Gran Premio e a lui accade che si stacca una ruota durante il pit stop e ferisce tre meccanici. Io mi ricordo, al di là della tragedia con Ayrton, al di là dei fatti che hanno portato alla morte Ratzenberger, mi ricordo la sua campagna dei 50 all'ora in pit lane. Assolutamente voleva che si riducesse la velocità perché all'epoca era libera e quindi c'erano velocità stratosferiche nell'ingresso ai box.
Io penso che Michele ha ragione sull'ingresso e l'uscita dei box. Ne abbiamo parlato stamattina dopo il briefing con Michael Schumacher, perché eravamo già preoccupati di cosa può succedere a Monte Carlo. Non è che non vediamo che ci sono dei problemi, però non possiamo penalizzare il team che tutto l'inverno si allena con i meccanici per cambiare le gomme in 5 secondi.
Ma innanzitutto penso che sia ridicolo dover cercare di giustificare la preparazione invernale per i cambi gomme nei box per guadagnare 3 secondi, perché penso che la vita umana valga molto di più di 3 secondi che si possono perdere o più o meno. Quindi secondo me, per quanto mi riguarda, per fortuna non guido per la Benetton per loro, perché io del prossimo cambio gomme entrerò a 50 all'ora nei box. E spero che i miei colleghi facciano altrettanto se sono delle persone serie, fino a quando la federazione non farà un intervento appropriato. Per quanto riguarda quello che è successo qui a Imola, quando sono venuti a provare 2 mesi fa, hanno rifatto l'asfalto al tamburello e la mia macchina nei giorni scorsi a 320 all'ora. Oggi per andare forte bisogna fare le macchine rigide. Le macchine rigide rimbalzano su questi dossi e si smontano. Quindi oggi è molto più pericoloso del passato. Costava niente dalle prove di Imola di 1 mese e mezzo fa a oggi rifare perlomeno nella parte veloce l'asfalto. L'abbiamo chiesto e ci hanno risposto che era impossibile farlo per il Gran Premio. Oggi stiamo pagando queste cose, ma noi le segnaliamo queste cose, ma il nostro potere è zero, nessuno ci ascolta e oggi siamo qui a piangere quello che è successo. È ridicolo, dovrebbero ascoltare la gente che in macchina sa quello che succede.
Lui rimase molto deluso del fatto che il limite fu portato a 80 all'ora, ma per tutto l'anno, sebbene costasse a livello prestazionale, Michele attraversava la corsia a 50 all'ora.
Era un uomo coerente, nel senso che credeva nelle cose che diceva, cioè nel senso ci sono uomini che parlano e poi fanno altre cose, se lui dice una cosa la fa, cioè nel senso è così. E quindi se lui cioè secondo lui, visto che poi cosa era successo, era rimasto malissimo, cioè il fatto di essere comunque aver procurato del male a delle persone che lavorano per te, con te, è una cosa terribile, quindi lui ha detto no, io in questa cosa non ci sto e quindi si è messo d'accordo e ha detto mi dispiace, perderò anche posizioni, però io faccio così, mi sento di fare così.
I have no plans for next year, that's for sure. I didn't make any decision for what I'm going to do in the next season, as I did last year, as I did 2 years before. So during the winter we'll see which opportunity I can find, and then I will decide.
Some magazines write that you're going to do the German Touring Car Championship or the Italian, or...
No, that could be a chance because they give me an offer, but I didn't decide. I want to see how many chance to stay in a good competitive team in Formula 1 next year, and then when I have all the figure in front of me, I will decide.
For 1995, Michele would decide to leave Grand Prix racing and transferred over to the DTM for Alfa Romeo's factory team. Alfa Romeo's 155 had seen its domination of the 1993 championship drained, and 1994 and 95 would prove less competitive. Michele would score points just once, and outings in the International Touring Car Championship bore less fruit. After a brief stint in touring cars, Michele stepped back into single-seaters.
There is nothing else like it, the start of the Indianapolis 500. Today is the 80th running of the great race, and 33 cars will fly over the same bricks at the start-finish line that were laid here for the first race in 1911. Row 4 has only accounted for 3 winners, 1 for each spot. Outside is Michele Alboreto. He may be a rookie here, but 5 times he's won in Formula 1. His first win came in the United States, driving at the Caesars Palace Grand Prix. At Walt Disney World, he finished 4th. At Phoenix, 8th.
After a good qualifying to start 12th, Michele displayed strong race pace on his first visit to Indianapolis, though a good result was soon not to be.
And you see Michele Alboreto, there he is, the 33 car. He is very slow into the pits.
Michele, we know you had problems with the gearbox. Once you lost 6th gear, it just got progressively worse.
Yes, unfortunately, I started quite well. I was in the first part of the race just to control the situation, and I lost the 6th gear after 15 laps, 20 laps. and then the gearbox become even worse and worse, and they lost all the gears now, so there is nothing to do. But the condition outside is very good, everybody making a good job at the start, and everything is fine. Thank you.
A podium in the first race of the 1996-97 season and a 5th place in round 2 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway concluded his open-wheel career, as Michele set his sights on endurance racing. Before Michele's Formula 1 career had begun, he was approached to drive for the Lancia factory team in the World Sports Car Championship, where he picked up a number of victories alongside fellow Italian future Formula 1 stars Riccardo Patrese and Piercarlo Ghinzani, giving him a perfect baseline to conduct himself in sports car racing after his Formula 1 career. After further outings in Scandia's new Ferrari 333 SP in IMSA, Le Mans beckoned. Michele joined Team Joest in 1996, fielding a Porsche WSC 95 alongside Didier Teyes and Pierluigi Martini, who would qualify on pole. The two Joest WSC 95s would retain a 1-2 for half of the race, but a mistake for Martini would drop them to 4th, and with just 40 minutes remaining the drive shaft gave out, and the other Team Joest Porsche romped to a dominant victory. 1997 would prove even better.
While some 250,000 fans pick out their favorite places around the course, the 52 teams from the Le Mans prototype and GT categories get ready for the big race. Terry Boutsen in the 911 GT1 was powerless against the Joest Porsche prototype. Michele Alboreto used the qualifiers to record a time 2 seconds faster than any other car.
The race is another story because we have a lot of more problem on the consumption. We have a very small fuel tank, so the lap time on the race will be much slower, and probably the GT are a little bit more competitive for the race.
And here, the one they want to win. But of course, in reality, there's only 10 or maybe 15 cars capable of doing so. But there is Michele Alboreto in the car which won last year.
8 minutes before 4, it becomes serious. The warm-up lap. And as it was last year, there's a Porsche prototype on the right and a Grand Touring car on the left. Ready to run twice around the clock, almost 5,000 kilometers, 3,100 miles. And we're underway. Michele Alboreto in the Joest Porsche against Bob Wallach in the Porsche GT1. The battle for position continues throughout the field. Through the first chicane, the Porsche GT leading. Then comes the Joest Porsche, followed by the Nissan. Bob Wallach starts to pass away, and behind him, Van der Poel takes on Alboreto, trying to pass for second place. He does. As the field sorts itself out, Bob Wallach continues to lead. Van der Poel is second, and Alboreto is running third. We're now in the third lap. Alboreto is making the move on Van der Poel and outbreaks him to take over second place. There's so much race ahead, and so much wear and tear, and yet the first few laps have become a sprint race. The prototype Porsche is starting to challenge the GT1. Alboreto now looking to take over the lead, and he does. A prototype is out in front thanks to a great use of the slipstream. The Joest Porsche, the successful car from 1996, is right now out in front here at Le Mans. Many had felt that the prototype would not be as competitive this year, and yet there it is, leading everyone else.
And after 1 hour, that was the position. Most of the pit stops accomplished, and the Joest Porsche in the lead by just 1.6 seconds. Well, Michele Alboreto climbs out his second stop. The car still in the lead. Stefan Johansson, another former Ferrari driver. He drove with Ferrari at the same time as Alboreto in the 80s. He's also been racing out in the States. And there now the two Porsches looking very impressive indeed, running absolutely nose to tail. We're 3 hours into the race now, and those two Porsches have moved ahead of the Joest Porsche with Johansson at the wheel. The extra pit stops starting to play.
the night takes over at Le Mans. After 6 hours, 4 cars within 3 minutes of each other.
But this is the lead machine, been waging quite a battle with its sister car, and nevertheless still keeping a watching brief. On the same lap, the TWR Yost Porsche, the open car. So it's not just a total runaway by the Porsche factory teams. But still, at the front, it was the 2 Porsche GT1s, 25, and that close behind, on the same lap, car number 26. In third place, Alboreto Johansson and young Tom Christensen, the 29-year-old Dane in his first Le Mans.
Then the shot. 7:45 a.m. the leading Porsche falls out after dominating the race. But now the race is in the hands of Emmanuel Collard, Yannick Dalmas and Ralph Kellner.
There, the Yost Porsche just trying to unlap itself, and indeed it does. And so the number 7 car really on the charge now, and Michele Alboreto doing a fantastic job.
26 of the 48 starters have fallen out of the race.
New fastest lap, well, the charge is definitely on. New fastest lap to the Yost Porsche, chasing after the 26 machine.
Lead actually continues to dwindle or grow after each gas or tire stop. At 1:43, a decisive moment. The Porsche 911 catches fire and then rolls off the course. And now the Yost Porsche is out in front. It has a 2-lap lead over the 2nd place McLaren and a 4-lap lead over the 3rd place McLaren.
Michele Alboreto is already waving to the crowd on this, the last lap.
Michele Alboreto, Stefan Johansson and Tom Christensen win the hardest endurance race in the world. It's the 15th time a Porsche has taken the title. 17 cars finished the grueling event. 10 of them had Porsche motors. 7 of those finished in the top 10.
Ça fait beaucoup d'années que j'ai cette rêve de gagner la 24 heures. Maintenant, c'est fait.
How does it feel to be here, especially to win? And was this a very tough race?
Yeah, I would say it was a pretty hard race. I mean, as Michele said, we had to drive really as quick as we could to put as much pressure as we could on the GT cars, of course. You know, being a little bit disadvantaged with our fuel situation and so on. To answer your question about Le Mans, of course, for me it's absolutely one of the best races in the world. I mean, there's no other place that have the atmosphere that you have here, and to win it, I think, is every driver's dream, of course, and it's especially gratifying for me, having raced for so many years now, and it's you know, I'm sort of at my pinnacle of my career, and it's a fantastic thing.
After an unsuccessful 1998 Le Mans where the new LMP1 Porsche retired after 107 laps, 1999 would bring a new frontier for Michele's racing swan song. Audi, interested in winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans, joined forces with Team Jost to form one of the most successful partnerships in the history of motor racing. In Audi's R8R, a 3rd at Sebring was followed by a 4th at Le Mans behind the sister car, and for the new millennium, Audi would build the all-conquering R8. In 2000, a strong 2nd place at Sebring was followed later in the season by victory at Petit Le Mans, as well as joining the famous Audi 123 on the podium at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It speaks to his class that at 44 in his first race of 2001, victory at the Sebring 12 Hours came as well.
Michele, just 1 year ago you saw victory slip away in the final couple of hours. This must be great.
Yes, this time is a dream come true because I was 2 times second, 1 time third here in Sebring, and achieve this result for me is very important for my career. So after Le Mans I also win this race. It's very, very important.
On the 21st and 22nd of April 2001, Michele drove both rounds of the Lamborghini GTR Super Trophy with French former skiing world champion Luc Alphand, and at his home track in Monza, Michele finished on the podium in both races.
È morto Michele Alboreto, 45 anni, l'ultimo pilota italiano ad essere stato scelto personalmente da Enzo Ferrari. È morto in Germania mentre provava sul circuito di Lausitz-Ring vicino a Dresda un Audi R8 in vista della 24 ore di Le Mans. La casa tedesca precisa che Alboreto si trovava sul rettilineo del circuito quando la vettura, per cause ancora sconosciute, è sbandata e si è rovesciata.
Tu come sei arrivata alla notizia tragica?
Purtroppo mi hanno chiamato, mi ha chiamato questo capo dell'Audi e praticamente l'ho saputo al telefono. Alla fine il fatto di avere delle figlie che erano ancora abbastanza piccole mi ha aiutato tantissimo, perché chiaramente la vita doveva continuare, io dovevo essere forte per loro e quindi tutte le cose cioè poi secondo me la vita ti porta avanti, cioè non c'è niente da fare, nel senso che ti spinge in avanti e quindi alla fine vivi, all'inizio magari sopravvivi e poi vivi, nel senso che per forza di cose, e ti dico, le figlie mi hanno aiutato tantissimo.
The cause of the accident has now officially been defined. DECRA, the German investigatory group, was asked by the State Prosecutor's Office at the nearby town of Cottbus to investigate the accident, and the conclusion is that a sharp item punctured the left rear tyre, throwing the car off the track and out of control. Among the many to pay tribute to him was Ferrari's president, Luca de Montezemolo. He said Michele played an important part in the history of Ferrari. Intelligent, he paid a great deal of attention to the technical problems involved in developing the car. His death has been a hard blow to take and has filled me with a deep sadness.
Well, he was a real gentleman. I mean, this was the real memory I have of him. He was a straightforward guy, always friendly, always nice, did a very good job in racing. And it's very sad that he had this accident.
It's not too long time ago that he asked me to come and drive with him long distance races, and I said, no, Michele, I have a new job, I like my role. So really, I'm very sad that this happened.
I raced against him in '79 in Formula 3, and he was always what I call a gentleman, and you don't have too many, I mean, I can think about, without telling names, maybe 4 or 5 that I met in 20 years, and he was one of them.
Michele è stato il mio primo pilota professionista, è stato l'unico pilota che mi ha fatto vincere un Gran Premio, anche se di Formula 2, un amico che ha debuttato con la Minardi, fresco costruttore di formule, e ha chiuso la carriera con la Minardi. Si era fatto un obiettivo post Formula 1 che stava coronando ampiamente, e anche lui aveva capito che ormai era arrivato e stava preparando quello che poteva essere un'apoteosi, cioè chiudere vincendo la 24 ore di Le Mans. Poi un banale incidente dove magari 9 volte su 10 non ti fai niente, in questo caso purtroppo è stato fatale.
We started racing against each other in F3, of course, you know, and followed F3, then F2, then Michele got the break a few years earlier in F1, then we end up in F1 together, then, you know, then we sort of go separate ways, then we end up teammates in Arrows, free races, then a few more years go by, then we end up doing the Daytona 24 hours in the Ferrari 333 when they launched that. And then we end up doing Le Mans, and we won Le Mans together, and then we drove together at Audi. So, I mean, we were like brothers at that point, you know.
viene in mente esattamente quando venivo io a vedere le corse alla Ferrari, quindi mi medesimo molto bene in quello che provano adesso queste persone che sono al di là della rete.
Hai tagliato le reti da bambino?
Ne ho scavalcate tante anch'io, ho lasciato tanti pantaloni sulle reti tra di me.
you.